Sometimes the empire you fight to build crumbles not from your enemies, but from your own indifference to what truly matters. Leaving his pregnant wife behind, a billionaire watches in panic as she moves in with a CEO. In the glamorous corridors of Los Angeles' high society, where fortunes shift with a single deal and reputations rest on whispers, a shocking betrayal was poised to topple a gilded empire. Lucas Harrington, a calculating billionaire with an impeccable pedigree, made the reckless decision to walk out on his pregnant wife, Emilia Rhodes Harrington. At a time when she needed him most, unbeknownst to him, she would find support in an unexpected place. Daniel Vance, a powerful CEO, whose charm and compassion eclipsed Lucas's cold ambition. As scandal brews and loyalties are tested, everyone wonders how far desperation and regret will drive the man who once had everything. Lucas Harrington grew up in a world where doormen greeted him by name, private drivers ferried him to exclusive prep schools, and his every whim was indulged by a coterie of well-paid staff. His father, Richard Harrington, had amassed a fortune in real estate and tech investments, famously turning a $5 million loan into a multi-billion-dollar empire. Lucas, their only son, was educated at the most prestigious institutions, Eton in his teenage years and Stanford Business School in his 20s. His world had always been perfectly orchestrated, with power and prestige forming the backbone of his identity. It was at a Beverly Hills charity event that he first encountered Emilia Rhodes. While everyone there flaunted wealth in designer suits and jewel-toned gowns, Emilia wore a simple, understated dress with minimal jewelry. Unlike the other guests who postured for cameras, Emilia spent the evening chatting with older philanthropists and personally thanking donors. Something about her genuine warmth charmed Lucas, a man who was rarely moved by anything beyond profit margins and strategic alliances. They dated for 6 whirlwind months, a courtship filled with quiet dinners, philanthropic galas, and spontaneous flights to tropical islands. Emilia's modest upbringing in Santa Barbara, California, gave her a refreshing sincerity. Though she found Lucas's world intimidating, she carried herself with quiet confidence. Her background as an interior designer, with a knack for repurposing vintage finds, served as a grounding force against Lucas's luxurious tastes. 2 years into marriage, life appeared idyllic. Their wedding had graced the social pages. Harrington heir weds benevolent beauty in lavish ceremony. The storybook union seemed complete when Emilia discovered she was pregnant, but behind the polished facade, tension brewed. Lucas, newly placed at the helm of Harrington Industries, sank deeper into a cutthroat corporate environment. Long days morphed into all-nighters, and anxious phone calls from the board replaced dinner conversations. Emilia, once in awe of her husband's confidence, began seeing darker shades of that ambition. He was critical of her slower pace, her desire to create a warm home environment. He dismissed her gentle suggestions about balancing family and career. While she tried to be supportive, standing by him at events, managing her own blossoming design business, Lucas's drive left little emotional space for her or the unborn child. A subtle distance took hold in their penthouse overlooking Rodeo Drive. Emilia, who used to look forward to Lucas's return each night, now dreaded his clipped tone and the frustrated sighs he heaved when confronted with any pregnancy-related talk. Each rejection weighed heavier than the last. An invisible wall rising between them that Emilia, despite her efforts, could not tear down. She would lie awake some nights, one hand on her growing belly, the other reaching into the empty space beside her, wondering when the man she married had become a stranger. When she nudged him about attending prenatal classes, he brushed off the idea, retorting that he had a company to run. Emilia felt her heartbreak deepen with each rejection. Little did she know that the cracks forming now would soon split their marriage wide open, and Lucas, so confident in his powerful name and bottomless bank account, would learn that money can't buy back trust once it shatters, nor prevent the unstoppable force of regret. The turning point arrived on an unseasonably warm night in late March. Emilia was 4 months pregnant, reeling from morning sickness and the swirl of hormones. She'd spent the evening preparing a simple homemade meal, nothing extravagant, just soup and grilled vegetables. Lucas was supposed to be home by 8 for once, having promised to discuss the next ultrasound appointment. He never made it. At 10:30, the front door swung open, revealing an agitated Lucas, phone pressed to his ear. His jacket reeked of cigar smoke, and his expression was stormy enough to make Emilia's heart sink. He ended the call sharply and threw the phone onto a marble side table with a clatter. "What happened?" Emilia asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. She'd spent 2 hours waiting, reheating the food twice, anxious to share a rare evening together. "Nothing you'd understand," he snapped, pacing across the living room. His tone was harsher than usual, as though all the frustrations of the day had chosen this moment to erupt. "Do you have any idea how delicate the Lindstrom negotiations are? If we don't close this deal," Emilia bristled. "I've heard about the Lindstrom deal for weeks, Lucas, but I needed you tonight. I texted you about a baby's test results. They came in. I thought we could look at them together." He raked a hand through his hair, irritation flaring. "I can't think about that right now. Everything is at stake with Harrington Industries. My father's legacy is on the line if I don't push these expansions." "And what about our legacy?" she countered, tears threatening to surface. "What about the child we're bringing into this world?" Lucas closed his eyes, letting out a ragged sigh. "You know, Emilia, sometimes I feel like you just don't get it. This is bigger than us. The company is." She cut him off. "No, the company's not bigger than us. Family should come first." In the tense silence that followed, the ticking clock in the hallway felt deafening. Lucas glared at her, exasperated. "Look, if you want to prioritize family, be my guest. But I can't. Not now. If that means you need to step away for a while, so be it." A cold dread settled in Emilia's stomach. "What are you saying?" He averted his gaze. "Maybe we need space. I can't handle these arguments on top of everything else. Maybe it's best if you go stay somewhere else for a while until I sort this out." The words hit like a physical blow. Emilia's chest tightened as she realized her own husband was pushing her away. Despite her pregnancy, despite their marriage vows, she fought the tears, swallowing down the raw pain. "Fine," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'll leave in the morning." Lucas didn't protest or try to stop her. He merely walked to the window, staring at the glittering city lights that once seemed so enthralling. In that moment, the penthouse felt like a cathedral of emptiness, echoing with regrets yet to be fully understood. True to her word, Emilia packed a suitcase the next morning. She included a few maternity outfits, her prenatal vitamins, and personal belongings she couldn't bear to leave behind. A silent Lucas watched from the living room, coffee in hand, but no trace of warmth in his gaze. She tried to catch his eye one last time, hoping he'd apologize or ask her to stay. Instead, he turned away, engrossed in a stock report. As she zipped her worn suitcase shut, Emilia checked her modest savings account on her phone, a small fund she had quietly built from design commissions over the years. Fear gnawed at her. It wasn't much, certainly not enough to cushion an uncertain future with a baby on the way. For the first time, the true cost of walking away from Lucas's gilded life hit her with brutal clarity. But she straightened her spine, clinging to the fragile belief that survival meant more than comfort. Tears burned her cheeks as she rode the elevator down to the lobby. In the crisp air of Los Angeles's morning bustle, she inhaled deeply, determined to remain steady. She had no plan, only a modest bank account of her own, separate from Lucas's fortune, which she had built from her design commissions. Home wasn't an option. Her parents were no longer alive, and she had no siblings to turn to. Her only lifeline was her best friend, Olivia Madden, a marketing executive who lived in a modest condo near Venice Beach. When Olivia opened her door, she let out a shocked gasp at Emilia's disheveled appearance. "Emilia! Oh my God, what happened?" Wordlessly, Emilia broke down, the sobs she'd contained finally bursting free. Olivia gathered her into a fierce hug, rubbing her back as she cried. When she could finally speak, Emilia recounted the fight from the previous night, how Lucas demanded space, how he was consumed by business ambitions. Olivia's voice shook with anger. "He kicked you out while you're pregnant? That's insane. You can stay here for as long as you need. We'll figure something out." Emilia spent the day at Olivia's, lying low and ignoring the phone that occasionally buzzed with calls from the penthouse's landline. She was ready to face Lucas's demands, likely more corporate speak about strategy or a half-hearted mention of a marital arrangement. Instead, she lay in bed, resting a hand on her belly, wondering how her life had derailed so quickly. That afternoon, a stroke of relief arrived in the form of an unexpected email. Daniel Vance, CEO of a boutique venture capital firm called Vance Holdings, had seen Emilia's portfolio of design work through a mutual acquaintance. He was renovating his Malibu estate and needed an interior designer to reimagine the space. The contract promised to be lucrative, not to mention a chance to channel her heartbreak into creativity. Fate, it seemed, was offering a lifeline. Emilia responded promptly, setting up a meeting at Vance Holdings' corporate office. She was determined to prove she was more than just Mrs. Harrington, a tag that had overshadowed her talent since her marriage. She also sensed that throwing herself into work might distract her from the gaping wound Lucas had left. Over the next few days, she poured her energy into preparing mood boards, sketches, and referencing design trends for Daniel Vance's estate. When the day of their scheduled meeting arrived, she put on her best maternity blazer, practiced her pitch in the mirror, and tried to quell the swirling mix of excitement and anxiety. Little did she know that Daniel Vance was about to become far more than just a client, and that accepting his help would set off a chain of events that would send Lucas's world spinning out of control. The offices of Vance Holdings occupied a sleek, modern building near the Pacific coastline. Towering windows captured panoramic views of the Pacific, and the reception area featured minimalist art that exuded tasteful sophistication. Emilia felt a flicker of nerves as she approached the front desk, recalling how her last business pitch had been overshadowed by the brand power of her soon-to-be husband Lucas. This time, she stood alone, representing her own brand and skill. The receptionist led her to a glass-walled conference room where Daniel Vance awaited. A tall man in his late 30s, Daniel possessed an air of quiet assurance rather than the loud bravado that often accompanied CEOs. His crisp charcoal suit hinted at wealth, but his calm demeanor and genuine smile suggested he didn't rely on intimidation. Emilia found it refreshing after years of living with Lucas's stern sense of self-importance. "Miss Rhodes, thank you for coming," he greeted, gesturing to a plush chair across from him. "I've heard marvelous things about your design approach." Emilia introduced herself, then launched into her prepared presentation, showing him color palettes, architectural references, and a preliminary vision for the estate's interior. She made an effort to hide any personal turmoil, focusing purely on professionalism. Daniel listened intently, occasionally jotting notes or asking targeted questions. As the meeting progressed, Emilia sensed his interest was genuine. He was impressed by her innovative suggestions for integrating modern lines with the estate's classic structure. When she finished, he leaned back, folding his hands. "I appreciate your thoroughness. My schedule is hectic, and I need someone I can trust to manage this project autonomously. You strike me as someone who values excellence and detail." A flush of pride warmed Emilia's cheeks. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. I believe in delivering the highest standards." He smiled. "I think we can drop the formalities. Call me Daniel, and I'd be honored if you'd take on this project. My only concern, you're expecting. Will that timeline be an issue for you?" Emilia's stomach twisted. She worried any mention of her pregnancy might undermine her business credibility, but Daniel's tone wasn't condescending or dismissive. It was sympathetic, as if he genuinely cared about her well-being. She cleared her throat. "I'm due in a few months. I'm confident I can manage the bulk of the planning and initial phases before then. Perhaps we can establish a short break around my due date." Daniel nodded, an empathetic expression flickering across his features. "That's entirely reasonable. Let's finalize a contract and coordinate a schedule. If you need additional team members, let me know. I want this project done right, and I'm not afraid to invest in the best resources." Relief washed over Emilia. For the first time since her marriage imploded, she felt valued for her talent. After they concluded, Daniel walked her to the lobby, sharing tidbits about the estate's history. She found herself laughing at a light-hearted joke he made about the property's quirky architecture, momentarily forgetting the heartbreak she left behind. Before parting ways, he offered a business card. "If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and take care of yourself, Emilia. Stress can be tough during pregnancy." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. She realized how starved she was for genuine kindness. Lucas had grown so distant, yet this near stranger cared enough to show concern. It bolstered her courage to keep moving forward. She stepped onto the sidewalk with a buoyant step, feeling an undercurrent of possibility stir within her. Meanwhile, across Los Angeles, in his palatial office at Harrington Industries, Lucas was about to discover that banishing his wife wasn't just a personal mistake, it could unravel everything he held dear. While Emilia began her new project with Daniel Vance, Lucas dove deeper into the labyrinth of corporate battles. Days merged into nights of cutthroat negotiations to seal the Lindstrom deal, the largest international expansion in Harrington Industries' history. He scrawled out contract revisions at midnight, fielded calls from lawyers at dawn, and hammered out boardroom disputes. The mechanical routine of high-stakes commerce consumed him. The more success Lucas chased, the emptier his penthouse felt. Shadows clung to the corners where Emilia's warm presence used to linger. He told himself her departure was a temporary measure. Once the Lindstrom acquisition stabilized, they could reconcile. Yet weeks slipped by without so much as a text from Emilia. She had effectively cut him off, leaving him in a silent vacuum of uncertainty. Attempting to assuage his guilt, Lucas buried himself in deals. But guilt lurked in stray moments, when he glimpsed a pregnant stranger on the sidewalk, or caught a random whiff of the brand of soap Emilia once used. Late at night, he'd stand by the nursery they had started planning, the half-painted walls reminding him of a future he was systematically neglecting. One afternoon, while scanning a glossy business magazine, he stumbled upon a profile piece. Daniel Vance, the Vanguard CEO taking Los Angeles by storm, read the headline. A full-page photo showed Daniel in a tailored suit, leaning casually against a polished mahogany desk. The article praised his philanthropic ventures, referencing a new property renovation in Malibu. No mention of Emilia, of course. But a subtle disquiet rattled Lucas. He vaguely recalled hearing about Vance's fortune, self-made in venture capital, rumored to have a personal net worth rivaling certain old-money dynasties. Setting the magazine aside, Lucas tried to dismiss any concerns, but an uneasy tingle followed him. The glossy photo of Daniel, confident and composed, gnawed at him long after he closed the magazine. For the first time, Lucas truly grappled with the possibility that Emilia might find something, or someone, better than the life he had offered. An invisible fist squeezed his chest, cold dread blooming in the pit of his stomach. If Emilia was working on that estate, she was in close proximity to a man whose calm, confident style contrasted sharply with Lucas's intensity. A pang of jealousy sparked. He told himself that no matter her new circles, Emilia was still his wife, pregnant with his child. She'd return. Eventually. Wouldn't she? On a rare break, he dialed her number, but it went straight to voicemail. He left a terse message. "We need to talk about the baby. Call me back." Another day passed. No response. Agitated, he tried again, only to realize she had blocked him. A swirl of fear and anger welled in his gut. How dare she shut him out? He turned to Olivia Madden, Emilia's best friend, only to be met with a chilly rebuff. "Emilia's done being your afterthought," Olivia said bluntly. Furious, he demanded an explanation, but got nowhere. Meanwhile, his own mother, Victoria Harrington, scolded him for allowing such a domestic fiasco to overshadow the family's pristine image. She insisted he fix the situation before the gossip columns caught wind. Her solution? A contrived apology, perhaps a spa weekend. Lucas found the idea shallow, but desperation gnawed at him, so he half-heartedly agreed to meet with Emilia. When the time was right. He had no idea fate would soon spiral out of his control. Daniel Vance was about to become a significant figure in Emilia's personal life, bridging the chasm Lucas had so recklessly opened. And when news reached him that Emilia was no longer just working with Daniel, but living under his roof, Lucas's carefully curated composure would break in ways no business deal could mend. Emilia's new contract with Daniel required frequent trips to his Malibu estate. At first, she'd drive up with a drafting table wedged into Olivia's trunk, working inside the sprawling mansion that was undergoing renovation from floor to ceiling. She supervised contractors, selecting paint palettes, light fixtures, and custom furniture to complement the estate's classical architecture. Daniel visited on weekends to review progress, wandering the echoing halls, occasionally offering input, but largely deferring to her creative instincts. Emilia found his trust refreshing. Over casual lunches on the terrace, they exchanged stories. Her childhood in Santa Barbara, his early struggles pitching his first startup, her recent heartbreak. He listened without judgment, the empathy in his gaze encouraging her to open up about Lucas's neglect. As her belly grew heavier, climbing the estate's multiple staircases became cumbersome. She noticed fatigue creeping in, and the hour-long drive each way drained her further. Sensing her discomfort, Daniel gently proposed an alternative. Why not stay in one of the estate's guest suites while you work? It'll save you the commute, and you can oversee everything day by day. At first, the idea startled her. She worried about impropriety, about fueling rumors. But Daniel's sincerity was hard to ignore. "I don't want to impose," she murmured. "You wouldn't be imposing, honestly. The place is so vast, I barely utilize half the rooms. I'd feel better knowing you're comfortable, especially with the pregnancy." After days of indecision, a minor pregnancy scare pushed her to accept. She experienced dizzy spells while driving, a near miss on the highway. The frightened call to her obstetrician ended in firm advice: reduce stress and travel. So she agreed to Daniel's offer, rationalizing it as a purely practical arrangement. Still, as she packed her bags, Emilia battled a gnawing sense of guilt she couldn't quite silence. She reassured herself that this was purely about health and work, but a small, stubborn voice whispered that, no matter how innocent her intentions, others might see betrayal where none existed. She hugged her growing belly protectively, vowing not to let gossip dictate her choices, even as anxiety clung to her like a second skin. When she told Olivia, her friend teased, "Living with a tall, dark, philanthropic CEO? That's like the plot of a romance novel." Emilia rolled her eyes but couldn't deny the sense of relief at removing daily travel from her routine. She remained vigilant, ensuring clear professional boundaries. This was about her safety and the job, nothing more. The move happened quietly on a breezy Saturday. Olivia helped Emilia pack essentials: maternity clothes, design tools, personal keepsakes. As they pulled into the estate's sweeping driveway, a mixture of nerves and cautious excitement buzzed in Emilia's chest. She tried to ignore the faint voice in her head warning of Lucas's reaction if he found out. Daniel welcomed her warmly, showing her the spacious guest suite, a bright room with tall windows overlooking manicured gardens. A private sitting area allowed her to spread out her design materials. That evening, Emilia found herself dozing off to the gentle hum of crickets and the faint babbling of a courtyard fountain, a stark contrast to the city's roar. Although she felt a twinge of guilt for feeling comfortable in another man's home while still legally married to Lucas, her rational mind reminded her, he cast you out. He made his choice. A choice that, by the following morning, would put a scandalous spin on everything. Lucas simmered because word of Emilia's presence in Daniel Vance's estate was about to leak, and the man who believed everything could be resolved with power or money would face a situation he couldn't simply buy off. Lucas first heard the rumor from a longtime business associate, Matthew Crane, who dropped it casually over drinks at a private club. "So your wife's taken up with Daniel Vance." A prickle of hostility shot up Lucas's spine. "What are you talking about?" he growled, swirling his bourbon in a crystal tumbler. Matthew raised an eyebrow. "Haven't you heard? Word is Emilia moved into his Malibu place to do some design work, and possibly more." The insinuation made Lucas's jaw clench. Matthew shrugged. "I'm not judging, man, but that's the buzz. People are whispering that Vance is being more than just a client." Lucas forced a laugh, trying to feign indifference. Inside, a tempest of betrayal and jealousy raged. How dare Emilia move into another man's estate? How dare Daniel Vance, that upstart CEO, offer her refuge? And how had Lucas become so divorced from his own wife's life that everyone else found out before him? The realization struck him hard. He was no longer the first person Emilia turned to. Worse, he wasn't even a presence significant enough to warrant anger or confrontation. She had simply moved on without him. The luxury, the empire, the Harrington name, none of it mattered if the woman carrying his child chose silence over engagement. A hollowness opened inside him, wide and merciless. He cut the evening short, ignoring the curious stares of other members as he stormed out of the plush lounge. In the privacy of his town car, he dialed Emilia's number again, still blocked. Furious, he texted Olivia Madden, demanding answers. She responded with a curt message. She's safe. That's all you need to know. Overcome with rage, he hammered out a second text, only to see that she too had blocked him. He was completely shut out. The next morning, Lucas sought out his mother, Victoria Harrington, hoping for maternal backing. Victoria was perched in her elegant parlor reading the Financial Times. She set aside the paper, lips tight. "Lucas, your father and I taught you better than this. Society is buzzing about Emilia living with another man." He slumped onto a velvet settee, tension making his shoulders rigid. "She overreacted. I told her we needed space. I never told her to shack up with some CEO." Victoria's polished nails tapped on the side table. "You told your pregnant wife to leave. My God, Lucas. What were you thinking? I was under so much pressure with the Lindstrom deal," he began. But she cut him off. "Business is no excuse to abandon your family. You risk more than just your marriage. Our entire reputation is on the line." She exhaled, rising. "You must fix this before the tabloids spin it into a scandal." It dawned on Lucas that while he was fixated on expansions and brand deals, Emilia was seeking solace elsewhere. The day ended with him pacing the penthouse, mind racing. He considered driving up to Malibu, forcibly confronting her and Daniel, but such a move risked turning an already delicate situation explosive, and Lucas hated losing face, especially if Emilia refused to see him. Instead, he formed another plan: approach Daniel Vance directly. Under the guise of a business conversation, he rationalized. They were both men of power. Surely they could reach an understanding. Deep down, Lucas believed that once Daniel realized he was infringing on a billionaire's territory, he'd relent. In the hush of the night, Lucas tried to quell the uneasy memory of the final look on Emilia's face when she left. He recalled her eyes brimming with heartbreak. He'd never meant to set it so harshly, but spurred by arrogance and illusions of control, he had. Now, faced with rumors that another man was stepping into the paternal role, Lucas's heart pounded with unspoken fear. Because for all his fortune, he was powerless to purchase the redemption he so desperately craved. To secure a meeting with Daniel Vance, Lucas invoked a veneer of business interest. He had his assistant reach out, expressing potential synergy between Harrington Industries and Vance Holdings in certain tech investments. The ruse worked. Within 2 days, Daniel agreed to a sit-down, presumably anticipating a fruitful corporate alliance. The meeting was scheduled at a neutral location, a private lounge within Los Angeles' illustrious Crescent Hotel. Lucas arrived early, unsettled by the tension thrumming in his veins. He'd practiced calm lines in front of the mirror, determined not to let jealousy unravel him. This was a man-to-man discussion, he reminded himself. No outbursts. Daniel Vance walked in precisely on time, exuding the composed confidence of a man who earned his success through intelligence and empathy. He wore a tailored navy suit, matched by a crisp white shirt. As he approached, Lucas noticed Daniel's eyes, a certain warmth behind them. A calm steadiness. "Mr. Harrington," Daniel greeted, extending a hand. "Thanks for inviting me. My schedule's tight, but your assistant mentioned a collaboration opportunity." Lucas forced a polite smile, shaking Daniel's hand. They settled into plush chairs near the lounge's window. For the first few minutes, Lucas tried discussing possible business angles, joint acquisitions, or philanthropic endeavors. Daniel listened, but a faint frown tugged at his brow, as if sensing something was off. Finally, Lucas cut to the chase. "I understand you've hired Emilia, my wife, to renovate your Malibu property." Daniel's eyes flickered in acknowledgement. "Yes, she's been doing an excellent job. Her designs are stunning," Daniel said. Lucas stiffened. "I also hear she's been staying there." Daniel took a measured breath, placing a hand on his knee. "Emilia's living arrangements are her personal choice. She's had a difficult time recently." "She wouldn't be in difficulty if she hadn't walked out on me," Lucas retorted, trying to keep his tone even. "Surely, Daniel, you understand how it looks. My pregnant wife staying under your roof." Daniel met his gaze steadily. "I offered her the guest suite because her commute was draining and she needed a peaceful space. She's carrying a child, your child. She deserves comfort and safety." The word struck Lucas like an accusation. He clenched his fists. "I appreciate that. But you also realize it's causing rumors. People assume there's more to it." "If by more to it you mean a romantic entanglement, that's not something I need to defend," Daniel's voice remained gentle, yet firm. Emilia is an incredible person. She's also an adult who can make her own decisions. Lucas's anger flared. She's my wife. We're not divorced. I have rights here. Daniel's eyes flashed for the first time. Then perhaps you should exercise them in a way that respects her well-being, not your ego. If you truly care, talk to her. Own your mistakes. Don't blame me for providing her a safe haven when you turned her away. Silence crackled between them. Lucas realized Daniel wasn't cowering or stepping aside. The man was calmly asserting that Emilia's comfort took precedence over Lucas's pride. Tight-lipped, Lucas stood. Thank you for your time. This conversation has been enlightening. Daniel rose as well, offering no handshake this time. If you truly want what's best for Emilia, show her. Actions speak louder than words. Lucas left the lounge, his emotions a storm of resentment, regret, and grudging respect. Daniel Vance had bested him in composure. Worse, the man seemed genuinely invested in Emilia's welfare. That was a game-changer. Lucas never expected a philanthropic CEO who might offer not just shelter, but the kindness and stability Lucas himself had failed to provide. News of the tension between Lucas Harrington and Daniel Vance soon filtered through Los Angeles's upper crust. Though discreet, the exchange at the Crescent Hotel had been spotted by a paparazzo lurking near the lobby. Speculation surged. Was Emilia divorcing Lucas? Would the baby be raised with Daniel as a surrogate father? None of this made its way into official tabloids yet, but the hush of private conversations carried the rumor like wildfire. Allies of the Harringtons fretted over the family brand's potential tarnish. Board members at Harrington Industries quietly expressed concern that Lucas's personal drama might distract from crucial deals. Meanwhile, distant relatives of Emilia, who rarely engaged with her, now called to glean gossip. Emilia, tucked away in the peaceful enclave of Daniel's estate, discovered the swirl of speculation one morning when Olivia Madden forwarded an email from a friend. The friend, a socialite, wondered if Emilia had truly abandoned her marriage for Daniel Vance's billions. Mortified, Emilia cradled her phone, reading the message with trembling hands. She had never intended to spark a public scandal, but Lucas's bitterness and Daniel's protective stance had become fodder for salacious rumor. Later that day, Daniel noticed Emilia's distress. She was reviewing paint samples in the grand foyer when he approached. "You look upset," he commented gently. "What's wrong?" She hesitated, then showed him the email. "They think we're an item, that I used my pregnancy as a stepping stone to jump from one billionaire to another." Her cheeks flamed with shame. Daniel's expression darkened. "That's ridiculous. You have nothing to prove to those gossips. You're here for work and for your safety." She tried to smile, but tears pooled in her eyes. "I just hate being a spectacle. Victoria Harrington must be mortified. And Lucas, well, he might be furious." "Let him be," Daniel said firmly, though not unkindly. "You deserve peace, Emilia. You're not a commodity to be traded between powerful men." His words eased some of her tension. She nodded, resolving to press forward with the project and avoid the outside noise. Meanwhile, she scheduled an appointment with her obstetrician to ensure the baby was still thriving amid the emotional upheaval. Unbeknownst to her, Lucas was busy orchestrating a new approach, one that combined legal strong-arming and manipulative charm. He consulted a high-profile divorce lawyer, Jonathan Silverman, behind closed doors. The plan, if Emilia refused to return home, Lucas could leverage his paternal rights. He painted the scenario as though Emilia had abducted his unborn child by refusing him contact. Jonathan cautioned him, "Your standing in court might be compromised if the judge views your actions as abandonment. Are you sure you want to escalate this legally?" Lucas's eyes narrowed. "I'm not giving up. That child is mine." "I refuse to let Daniel Vance or anyone else overshadow that," Lucas declared. The lawyer gave a non-committal nod, letting Lucas's determination hang in the air. That same evening, Lucas typed a carefully crafted letter to Emilia, adopting a gentler tone. He apologized for his outburst, claimed he missed her, and wanted to settle matters privately. In truth, it was a ploy to coax her away from Vance's domain. When Emilia received the email, a swirl of conflicting emotions overcame her. She read his words, references to their early love, regret for misunderstandings, and tears slipped down her cheeks. Her fingers trembled as she reread the lines. part of her aching for the man she once loved, part of her recoiling from the memories of isolation and hurt. The sincerity in Lucas's words tugged at a fragile thread deep inside her, one that had not yet snapped despite everything. Part of her yearned for reconciliation, but she also recalled the coldness in his voice when he demanded she leave. Even now, hope battled caution inside her, a silent war between what she wished he had become and what she feared he would always be. Could a man change when pride and ambition were etched so deeply into his bones? Or was she simply clinging to a ghost, desperate for a redemption that might never come? Now, with her baby soon to arrive, she stood at a crossroads: accept Lucas's olive branch and risk further neglect, or remain in Daniel's supportive orbit, igniting rumors and the possibility of a scandalous future. The choice gnawed at her spirit, each path lined with hope and heartbreak in equal measure. Little did she realize, fate was about to force her hand in a far more dramatic way, one that neither Lucas nor Daniel could fully control. 2 months later, Emilia was in her 3rd trimester, juggling design deadlines and frequent prenatal checkups. She had grown close to Daniel in a comfortable, platonic way, sharing breakfasts in the Manor's sunlit dining room, exchanging book recommendations, discussing philanthropic ideas. She found him both intellectually stimulating and emotionally grounded, a stark contrast to Lucas's relentless ambition. She still read Lucas's occasional emails or texts, some contrite, some angry, but left them largely unanswered. He hovered on the fringes of her life, an intangible presence. She tried to remind herself that his frustration stemmed from fear, not necessarily cruelty. Yet every time she pictured him demanding she leave, her heart constricted. Then came the day everything changed. Early one morning, Emilia was walking through the estate's rose garden, reviewing final touches for the interior design, when she felt a sharp cramp in her lower abdomen. Alarmed, she paused, breathing through the pain. It subsided, only to return minutes later, more intense. Panic set in. She was only 34 weeks pregnant, far too early for labor. Daniel, alerted by a gardener who witnessed Emilia's distress, rushed out to her side. One look at her pale face told him something was seriously wrong. He helped her inside, calling her obstetrician. The doctor advised immediate hospitalization for observation. Within half an hour, Daniel had whisked Emilia to the nearest hospital in his sleek black SUV, reassuring her as she fought tears and clenched her teeth against the mounting contractions. At the hospital, doctors confirmed signs of preterm labor. They administered medications to try slowing the contractions and gave steroids to help the baby's lung development if an early birth was unavoidable. Fear engulfed Emilia. She cursed herself for ignoring the subtle signals: fatigue, stress, the swirl of emotional turmoil. A nurse hooked her to monitors, measuring the baby's heartbeat. Daniel phoned Olivia Madden and the doctor for updates. Then, in a move that showcased his remarkable empathy, he called Lucas. Regardless of their differences, the father deserved to know. "Emilia's in the hospital," Daniel said quietly when Lucas answered. "She's in preterm labor. You should come." A stunned silence followed before Lucas demanded details. Daniel calmly gave the hospital's address, ignoring any biting remarks. He set aside personal rivalry, focusing on Emilia's best interests. Lucas arrived at the hospital soon after, disheveled and frantic. He found Daniel outside Emilia's room, conferring with a nurse. For once, Lucas didn't posture. His anxious eyes jumped from Daniel to the closed door. "Is she okay?" he asked, voice tight. Daniel nodded, stepping aside. "They're doing everything they can to stop the labor. She's stable for now." Swallowing his pride, Lucas quietly opened the door. Inside, Emilia lay on a bed, an IV drip in her arm, her face drawn with fear. She looked up, and their eyes met. For a moment, the heartbreak and anger receded in the face of a more primal bond. They were about to become parents, possibly sooner than expected. She forced a small smile, tears glistening. "They said the baby's heartbeat is strong. They're trying to keep him or her inside a bit longer." Lucas gently took her hand. "I'm here," he murmured. "I'm sorry for everything." Emilia closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. She felt a tangle of emotions: relief that he came, lingering hurt, and unexpected gratitude for Daniel standing quietly behind him. This surreal convergence of father and caretaker overshadowed the messy drama of recent weeks. In that moment, the baby's fate became paramount. No one could predict how the next hours would unfold, whether their child would arrive prematurely or if medical intervention would buy more time. What was certain, the crisis that forced them all into the same room would either push them further apart or open a path to some form of reconciliation, for the sake of the life that connected them all. Despite the medications, only 24 hours of delay was achieved. By the following evening, Emilia's contractions returned with a vengeance, and the obstetrician decided an early delivery was necessary to avoid complications. She was wheeled into a delivery suite, tension climbing with each contraction. Lucas hovered at her side, pale and trembling, while Daniel remained in the waiting area, prepared to assist if needed. Labor was harrowing at 34 weeks. The baby was premature, and concerns about respiratory development loomed. Emilia gritted her teeth, focusing on breathing techniques. Lucas clenched her hand, whispering apologies, regrets, and quiet encouragement. Words that poured from him in a raw vulnerability she hadn't seen before. His voice cracked as he spoke, a mixture of guilt and helpless devotion. Each time she cried out in pain, it felt like his own heart was being torn apart, and all the wealth, all the influence he commanded outside these sterile walls meant absolutely nothing. Here, he was just a terrified man, begging the universe to spare the two lives he had failed to protect. Despite everything, she needed him now, and he rose to the occasion, supporting her through waves of pain. After hours of excruciating effort, baby Henry Oliver Harrington emerged with a thin wail that signaled life, but also fragility. A swirl of relief and panic swept the room. The medical team whisked the baby away to the neonatal unit for immediate care. Exhausted, Emilia collapsed against the pillows, tears of joy and fear mingling. Lucas pressed a trembling kiss to her forehead, his eyes watery. "We have a son," he whispered, voice quavering. He was terrified, uncertain if the baby would face complications, but also awed at the miracle of new life. Emilia squeezed his hand, tears streaming. "He's so small, but he cried." "That's good, right?" The nurses nodded, reassuring her that Henry was stable but required monitoring in the NICU. When the doctor permitted visitors, Lucas peered through the NICU's glass, gazing at the fragile infant in an incubator. Overcome, he realized the magnitude of fatherhood, and the heartbreak of almost missing these precious moments. Daniel, aware of the delicate boundary, stayed mostly in the background. He congratulated Lucas with a simple handshake and expressed relief that both Emilia and Henry were alive. For once, Lucas felt gratitude toward the man he had despised, recognizing that Daniel had been a pillar of support for Emilia in ways Lucas had failed to be. Over the next few days, as Henry gained strength, the atmosphere between Emilia and Lucas softened. They shared quiet visits to the NICU, sometimes sitting side by side, watching Henry's tiny chest rise and fall. The precarious nature of a premature baby overshadowed their past resentments. Lucas even apologized, earnestly acknowledging his selfishness. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he murmured, "but I'm begging for a chance to do better." Emilia, emotionally raw, offered no grand proclamations. She was too focused on Henry's daily progress, rejoicing when he breathed better, despairing at any minor setback. Daniel popped in occasionally, bringing fresh meals or offering rides back to the estate for Emilia to rest. She recognized how drastically her life had changed, living in the CEO's home, yet reunited with her estranged husband over their child's uncertain future. Meanwhile, Lucas wrestled with guilt. He yearned to bring Emilia and Henry home to the penthouse, to resume the life he had foolishly cast aside. But each time he imagined it, the question lingered: would Emilia trust him enough? Or was her loyalty shifting to Daniel? One evening, while Emilia slept in her hospital room, Lucas found Daniel in the corridor. The two men locked eyes, tension brimming. Finally, Lucas extended a hesitant hand. "Thank you," he said, words heavy with sincerity, "for looking after her, and for telling me about the labor." Daniel studied him, then gave a slight nod. "Emilia's well-being matters more than any feud. Henry's precious. He needs both his parents." Lucas's chest tightened. "I want to do right by them," he paused, swallowing. "But if she chooses to stay at your place, that's her decision. I can't force her back." Daniel's voice was steady. "Emilia is free to choose. I'll support whatever she decides." Left unsaid was the question of whether Emilia might choose Daniel. Neither man pressed for clarity. In that hospital corridor, overshadowed by the beep of monitors and the hum of overhead lights, both recognized that a fragile life had rearranged their priorities, and none of them would leave unchanged. 2 weeks later, baby Henry was healthy enough to leave the NICU. For Emilia, it was a moment of profound relief. Cradling her son, feeling his warmth, hearing his soft coos made every heartbreak and anxiety melt away. Lucas hovered close, tears shining in his eyes as the nurses finally disconnected Henry from the last of the monitors. The question remained, where would Emilia and Henry go? The day of discharge, she gathered her things in the hospital room, eyeing the suitcase. Lucas stood nearby, awkwardly hopeful. Meanwhile, Daniel arrived, offering a gentle smile. "I brought a car seat for Henry. Thought you might need it." Her gaze flicked between the two men, each representing different paths. She took a shaky breath, pressing her lips to Henry's downy head. "I appreciate everything you've done, Daniel," she murmured, eyes glistening. "And Lucas, I know you're trying, but I need time to figure out what's best for Henry and for me." Lucas nodded, heartbreak flickering across his face. "Wherever you go, I'd like to be part of Henry's life. You both can rely on me, financially, emotionally, any way you want." Daniel lowered his gaze respectfully. "My door's always open if you need a safe space, but I understand if you prefer a more private environment." Emilia felt an ache in her chest, recalling the penthouse's emptiness and Lucas's former neglect. Yet she also recognized his recent efforts. I'll go back to the estate. For now," Emilia decided, her voice trembling. "It's where Henry's nursery is almost finished, and the environment's calm. Lucas, we can arrange visits, or you can stay nearby if you want." While relief shone briefly in Daniel's eyes, Lucas's shoulders sagged, but he nodded, forcing a supportive smile. He couldn't protest. He had lost the right to demands when he drove her away. "I understand," he said quietly. Days later, the trio parted ways. Daniel drove Emilia and Henry back to the Malibu estate, ensuring the baby seat was secure. Lucas lingered behind, heart heavy but determined to remain in Henry's life. Over the following weeks, Lucas visited the estate regularly, each time battling a storm of complex emotions. He often found Daniel there, kindly stepping aside to give father and son privacy. Slowly, a new rhythm emerged. Lucas discovered fatherhood's quiet joys, holding Henry against his chest and feeling the infant's steady heartbeat, changing diapers with fumbling eagerness. Emilia observed him, torn between old resentments and the new tenderness he displayed. Sometimes, as she watched Lucas cradle Henry, her mind flashed to the humiliations she endured. But for Henry's sake, she extended cautious grace. Daniel maintained a respectful distance. The estate was large enough for everyone to coexist without constant awkwardness. He even offered Lucas a separate room if needed, ensuring Henry's father had a place to rest after long evenings. This improbable arrangement made the estate a safe bubble of sorts. Though rumors about Emilia living with two men flared in certain circles, she shrugged off the talk, focusing on Henry's well-being. One crisp morning, while Henry napped in a sunlit corner, Lucas and Emilia walked the garden paths. He spoke haltingly about therapy sessions he'd started, an attempt to address his workaholic patterns and emotional aloofness. She listened, heart softening at the vulnerability in his voice. "I'm not perfect," he admitted, "but I see how toxic I became. I want to be better. For you, for Henry, and for myself." Emilia's eyes grew misty. "I need time to trust that," she whispered. He nodded. "I know." They continued strolling, leaves crunching underfoot. For the first time since their fight, the conversation felt open, unguarded. Meanwhile, from the manor's library window, Daniel watched them with a subdued smile. He recognized that while he cared deeply for Emilia, she and Lucas shared a bond that spanned love, heartbreak, and now the life of an innocent child. If they found a way back to each other in a healthier form, Daniel wouldn't stand in their path. As the weeks turned to months, Henry thrived, chunkier, more alert, responding with giggles to the odd household dynamic. Emilia completed the estate's renovation, finishing her contract with Daniel. She faced another crossroads: remain under Daniel's roof or attempt to rebuild a home with Lucas. The final choice remained a tangle of love, forgiveness, and the unspoken truth that she had at times begun to see Daniel as more than just a friend. But for now, the estate's wide halls echoed with renewed possibilities. Henry's soft laughter, the fragrance of newly hung drapes, the hush of the wooded grounds. Life had changed irrevocably, but perhaps for the better. The future was an open page, ready to be written by hearts that had learned painfully the value of compassion and the cost of pride. Emilia, Lucas, and their infant son Henry found an unlikely sense of peace in Daniel Vance's estate, learning that compassion can come from unexpected places, and that true love demands honesty, empathy, and the willingness to grow. Though Lucas's betrayal nearly shattered Emilia's trust, the bond forged by Henry's premature birth prompted each person involved to face their flaws and let go of resentment. Whether Emilia decides to rebuild her marriage with Lucas or pursue a brand new path, one thing remains clear: her voice, her worth, and her ability to stand strong for herself and her child will guide her future steps. Dear friend, sometimes life doesn't offer us the luxury of a clean break or a perfect ending. Like Emilia, Lucas, and Daniel, we are all stitched together by choices, some beautiful, some painful. The Stoics teach us that we cannot control the winds, only how we set our sails. And so it is with love, forgiveness, and healing. The future is never guaranteed, but our courage to face it with open hearts and wiser souls is everything. Where pain once lived, growth can bloom, if we dare to nurture it. If this story touched something deep inside you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps these heartfelt journeys alive and reminds all of us that healing is always possible.